Coming up on Open Door with Vince Robinson, Taye Uhuru on his new book, The Afro Set, a look back at a Cleveland Black Nationalist group during the 60s that rivaled the Black Panther Party in its benefit to the community, and his travels around the world. And new music from two Cleveland recording artists, Azaryahu Yis'Rael and Rey Huzza's new single, Whole Foods, gets a spin on Open Door, as well as a look at the benefits of meditation. Open Door starts now. Welcome to Open Door. My guest is Taye Uhuru. He is the author of a new book called The Afro Set. Taye, welcome to Open Door.
Thank you. I truly appreciate you, King, for allowing me on your platform.
Well, I'm really glad to have you. You know, I know that you are out in the community doing some other things, and you have a few different monikers, so we're going to take an opportunity to get to know you and see where things go. So, first of all, before we dive into all the other things that you are doing, let's talk about your book. What is the Afro Set about?
Okay, Afro Set, they were a Black Nationalist organization, and they were founded in the city of Cleveland in the mid-1960s. And my family, my uncle, he was one of the co-founders. My uncle Omar Majid and Harlell Jones, they created the organization a little bit after the Huff uprising, or some people call it the riots.
Right. They call it the riots incorrectly because of the connotations of riots. It puts black folks in a bad light, but the truth of the matter is some unjust things were happening that caused us to react the way that we did. So what did you learn about those events in your research?
I learned a lot of things. Like you say, there's a lot of negative connotation. So one thing about the Black Nationalists, when they show them, you know, they usually talk about the guns and the self-defense aspect of it. But the Afro Set, they opened up several shops in the Huff neighborhood in Superior. They opened up shops in Columbus, West Virginia, different states. And in these shops, they created an independent economy. They made dashikis, African jewelry, African masks, African necklace, and pottery, and paintings and different things. And, you know, they sold them to create income. And they had a lot of social programs. They had breakfast programs, lunch programs. They had a nursery. They had a lot of classes, educational courses. They had classes on African history, African language, Swahili, drug awareness. They had self-defense classes, classes on economics. And they also opened up a theater. It was a major cultural aspect. At that time, my uncle, he was a poet, so they would use the theater to have poetry readings. They would have fashion shows. They would have plays. They taught the kids how to play drums and different things like that. They opened up a nursery because it was a family aspect also. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, their mother and father was in the organization, or their brothers and sisters, or their cousins. Some people met at the Afro Set, and they got married. They had kids. So some people were actually born into the Afro Set.
Okay. So what inspired you to write this book?
The first thing was the fact that my uncle was involved in it, because I was doing a lot of family history research. And then after I, found a few interesting things, I started focusing more on my uncle. And I got a chance to meet a lot of his friends, people, his comrades, people that he fought with during that time. And then they kind of encouraged me, the elders. And they was like, I think you should be the one to write a book about the Afro Set, because nobody never wrote about them. Mm-hmm. There's no other book about the Afro Set.
Okay. Repeat his name and tell me what you remember about him.
Okay, my uncle, he changed his name like a lot of Black Nationalists. So he was known as Omar Majid. And I never met my uncle. So I learned a lot about him through my family. And then I learned even more about him once I started interviewing people and going into the archives and doing research. So the actual, hardcore research and interviews, I've been doing that maybe like the last 5 years. But I've always heard things about him, as a child from my aunts and uncles.
Mm-hmm. And did you hear anything about Harlell Jones?
Yeah, definitely. I've always heard of Harlell. He was known, so it was always positive things. But I never got the chance to meet him. But I got the chance to meet some of his family, his brothers and sisters and cousins and nieces and nephews. In 2016, I went door to door. I went to Huff, Crawford, Chester, and I got a petition. I got signatures to rename East 93rd after or in honor of Harlell Jones. So a lot of people, when I asked them about him, they told me a lot of positive things about him because he was in the community for several decades, throughout the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. He did so many positive things.
Okay. So how was it that you were able to publish this book? Did you have to obtain a publisher? Did you do it yourself? How did that materialize?
I've been doing everything independently on that end.
Okay. Yeah. Well, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get the word out. And you mentioned that you talked to quite a few people. Can you mention some of those that you interviewed to provide information for this book?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I started with my family. My mom, my grandmother had about 13 kids, and they were born and raised in the Huff neighborhood, so they was there through it all. I interviewed members of the Afro Set, the second in command, the Minister of Defense. I interviewed some of Harlell's siblings and relatives. And like I said, I interviewed people in the community. I interviewed several of the Muntu poets. I know you know some of the Muntu poets because my uncle, he was one of the original Muntu poets. So I got a chance to talk to Norman Jordan. I got a chance to meet Russell Atkins. I got a chance to interview several of the poets.
Okay. And, in reflecting on the history of the Afro Set, you spoke to some, and I don't necessarily need you to give away everything that's in the book, but, what were they saying about what happened and how the Afro Set ceased to be?
You say, how did they cease to be?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have an Afro Set now, and obviously there have been changes in our society and organizations that address the problems of the community. From what you expressed, the Afro Set was similar to the Black Panthers in that they did a lot of things that were in the interests of the community, and they were filling in some of the gaps that were left by the government. So, we need to have an Afro Set right now, to be honest about it. But what were they saying about, the way that the Afro Set ceased to be?
Oh, yeah, it was the demise of the Afro Set was similar to several of the other organizations that were around during the Black Power movement. In the 1960s and the 1970s, they were enemies of the government. And this is information, it's public information. You can look it up or you can go to Washington, D.C. They have freedom of information, so it's like thousands of pages of, documented evidence about the Afro Set from the FBI. They had official plans to destroy these groups, so it wasn't an accident or just by chance that the Panthers, the Afro Set, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and all these other people, they either died or they went to prison. So specifically, the head of the Afro Set, Harlell, he was sentenced to life in prison. And one of the things that helped to exonerate him and prove his innocence was, the COINTELPRO scandal. Once that became a public thing, then he used those freedom of information files to help win his freedom. Because at that time, they knew something was going on, but they just couldn't prove it, like how we know about, J. Edgar Hoover and the negative things that he was doing. They would try to get him to fight other Black nationalist groups, or they would kill certain people, or and some people, they would send them to jail for things that they actually didn't do.
Yes. A few years back, I read a book called The Briar Patch. It was written by an author named Murray Kempton, and in this book, he described how the FBI infiltrated the Black Panther Party, and they planted operatives in organizations in different cities. And what these operatives would do is they would instigate acts of violence for which those chapters would get blamed, and that was one of the ways that they defamed the Black Panthers and other organizations. So I would have to imagine that if it was happening with the Black Panthers, and it probably happened with the Afro Set. Was there anyone in the folks that you interviewed who were around back then to corroborate the infiltration or the use of operatives to undermine what they were doing here in Cleveland?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a lot of people that was informed. Some of them, they was kind of forced into it. Maybe they might arrest them and threaten them with jail time. Some of them, they might have beat them up. And then some people, they just paid them to do certain things, or they might have, coerced them to joining the organization to be disruptive. And like I say, with the case with Harlell, that's the most known situation. It was a guy, he joined the organization and he was doing violent things. And at the end of the day, all he had to say was, well, the leader of the Afro Set told me to do it. And he didn't have to have any evidence to back that up. And then once they went to court, he got off free and he continued to go to jail and he continued to get out of jail and get paid money. And like I say, these are things that's documented and I make reference to them, in my book.
Okay. Do you have any ideas about what happened with the Black Nationalist movement? During the 60s, it was a time when we got together and we decided that we needed to do things to create change. And then over a period of time, you saw kind of a waning of Black nationalism. It seemed to not be in vogue anymore. But do you have any ideas that you would like to offer about why that happened based on your research?
Yeah, because I think, okay, for the timeline, I think you had Malcolm X, he died at 65, and then you had Dr. King dying in 68, Fred Hampton, he died in 68. So around the early 70s is when the Black nationalist groups really came to an end. And that's when Nixon took office, the war on drugs, people was coming back from Vietnam. But you see a thing change with the drugs. You see Black people have started making more money, like the guys like Nicky Barnes, Frank Matthews, Frank Lucas. You start seeing these $1 million big-time drug dealers in the Black community, and you're seeing people coming from Vietnam. So the drugs, I think in the early 70s and mid-70s, that was one of the major factors that helped disintegrate our community at that time.
You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Taye Uhuru. We're going to talk about how you can get your copy of the Afro Set when we come back. We'll be right back after this.
When you're in my car, we're listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
What can you do in the battle against COVID-19? Your first task, wear a mask, protect yourself and others.
Armor up, armor up.
Give those hands a 20-second shower with soap and water.
Armor up, armor up.
Give others space 6 feet just in case.
Armor up, armor up.
Get good nutrition, ingest for digestion.
Armor up, armor up.
Vitamin C, D3, and more.
Armor up, armor up.
Elderberries, zinc, and echinacea from the store.
Armor up, armor up.
Get some fresh air. Go climb some stairs.
Armor up, armor up.
Let go of stress. Make sure you rest.
Armor up, armor up.
Your breath is the key to life. Strengthen your immune system, follow the guidelines, and win the battle against COVID-19.
Armor up, armor up.
This is Aja Jones,
Tracy Clark, Kiko, Yolanda Armstrong,
Brian Webster.
This is TC Lewis, and you are listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson with my guest, Taye Uhuru, author of The Afro Set. And now we need to find out how we can get a copy of this fine book.
Oh, okay. The book is available. I have a website. It's afroset.net, AFROSET.net.
Okay, so that's the primary way to get it?
Yes.
And perhaps the only way.
Yes, at this time. Because like I say, I'm doing it independently. I know a lot of people, they may put their books on like Amazon or different websites. But, I'm just trying to keep track of it and keep, cut the middleman out at this point.
Yes, and the reason that I mentioned that is because I wanted you to make that point, because a lot of times that's what we do. We defer to Amazon, and then Amazon cuts into your profits. I mean, they take 40, 50, 60% unless that book is priced appropriately, and you don't want to price it out of reach for folks. So, we don't always have to go to Amazon. There are other ways to get your books published, and so I compliment you for doing that. So you go to the afroset.net to get that book.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's shift gears and talk about some of the other things that you were involved in. Before we started this interview, I had to ask you who you were because I couldn't remember meeting you, but you reminded me that we had met on a few different occasions. You are also known in our community as Camp Cleveland, and you are doing things under that moniker. So tell us what you are doing as Camp Cleveland.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a lot of people know me as Camp Cleveland because I'm a hip-hop artist, and that's the name of my label. And I've been doing it for a long time, so I've done different things. I travel a lot. I've been to almost 60 countries around the world, and I collaborate with different artists, and we make music videos, we make songs, and I have a lot of content and material of my travels and of my music. And I share it on my YouTube page. I have a Facebook. I have Instagram. So most people that follow me, they know me as Camp Cleveland.
Okay.
I did songs with people in the Dominican Republic, Senegal, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Amsterdam, Brazil.
Okay. You've done these musical things. What is your lane, I guess, in terms of musicianship? Are you an instrumentalist? Are you a vocalist? What do you do musically?
I'm an MC. I'm a rapper. I write raps, and I find guys that can produce and they'll make the beats, and then I find other artists that can sing, do the vocals or play instruments, depending on the track.
Okay. And in terms of your travels, you mentioned that you have been to several countries. Tell us where you have been. You don't have to name every country, obviously. That's a long list, and I would be surprised if you could remember them all, but perhaps you can.
Oh, okay. Man, like you said, so many to name. I would say this: Africa is my favorite place. So I've been to about almost 20 African countries. I've been to South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Madagascar, Seychelles, Comoros, Egypt, Ethiopia, Morocco, Ghana, Senegal, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau. I've been to Europe, Asia, South America, North America.
Mm-hmm. What precipitated your interest in travel?
I think that's something that started kind of early. When I was little, my mom, she used to drive the bus. She drove the RTA, but she drove for Greyhound too. And that's when I really had my first experiences out of town. She may take us to New York, or we may ride with her to Chicago or Detroit, somewhere within 6 hours, 8 hours away. Okay. And then once I got older, when I got into music, that's something that I did on my own. We would make our own music. We would record it. We would make CDs, and we would sell them out the trunk of our car. We would go to Indiana. We would go to Chicago. We would go to Detroit. We would go to Kentucky and places like that. And then I started flying to different places, because I love to travel too. So I went to the West Coast. I went to Nevada and Albuquerque and California, different places like that. Then once I seen about 40 states, that's when I got my passport. So since 2010, that's when I really started going to different countries.
Okay. And, I have an affinity for Africa, so I have to ask you, which of the places that you went in Africa did you get the most from?
That's hard because Africa is so diverse. Like, the best way I can explain it, like, okay, we live in North America. Say if you go to Haiti, then you go to Mexico, then you go to Jamaica, then you go to Canada, then you go to America. They are so different. The language is different. The people look different. The food is different. The weather is different. There's so many different things. And Africa is far more diverse than North America. So each and every place that I went to in Africa, I've had an amazing experience, but it's been a different experience. I like the West Side because, we always hear that that's where we come from. Although I love the whole continent, Cape Verde, that's a beautiful place. That's a place that I would like to live because it's a lot of beautiful beaches. It's a low population, low crime rate, low cost of living. It's a slower lifestyle. That's one of my favorite places. During this lockdown, I was in South Africa. So I actually lived in South Africa for about 10 or 11 months. I had got my own apartment. I stayed in Johannesburg. South Africa is a real fun and exciting and culturally rich place. So those are probably maybe two of my favorite places in Africa.
Okay, interesting. Because I've been doing some research myself, and one of the places to live that they are touting as a good place to live is Cape Verde. So I think you might be on the right track there, brother.
Yeah, you'll like it. I take people to Cape Verde, everybody, because it's one of those places like South Africa, Ghana, Egypt, Ethiopia. Those are the more popular places. Cape Verde is one of them places I stumbled upon. You know what I'm saying? And then my mind was just blown away, like, oh wow, I almost missed this. You know.
Mm-hmm. But it's not an easy place to get to. It's not like you can take a nonstop flight from New York to Cape Verde, is it?
No, you're right. It is kind of difficult. I think you have to, only way you can get to Cape Verde is like if you fly from Boston, then you have to go to Portugal, then to Cape Verde. If you try to go, you might be able to go like Boston or Rhode Island straight to Cape Verde, but it'd be kind of expensive.
Kind of expensive, huh? Yes.
Yeah.
So since we're in this different place with reference to travel, have you seen any increase in the costs of flying abroad?
No, not yet. I haven't seen any major increases because, like I said, I was in South Africa for most of the time, and then I went to Ethiopia, and then I went to America, and now I'm going back. So the tickets were roughly about the same.
Okay. What about your travels to Europe? Are there any places in Europe that you've traveled to that stand out for you that you might recommend folks who may be disinterested in going to Africa that they might go to?
Let me see. I would say my favorite place to go to in Europe is Amsterdam. I've been to London, I've been to Paris, I've been to Spain, Portugal, France, Belgium, and a couple other places. But I would definitely say Amsterdam because it's like another planet almost. You know, they have the red light district, they have the coffee shops, they have a lot of good music. It's more laid back in comparison to like I said, London or Paris. It's not as hectic, and you see people riding bikes. It's a lot more peaceful. You see bikes everywhere. So I would definitely say Amsterdam if you're going to go to Europe.
And how are African Americans received in a place like Amsterdam?
I've been to Amsterdam at least like 4 or 5 times. I think it's better than the United States, you know, as far as the violence, like racial violence. Like you don't really hear about the black people in Amsterdam losing their life, but there is, racial incidents. Like during Christmas time, they have this thing called Santa Claus, where they're still doing like blackface. So it's like making a mockery of black people because there's a significant amount of black people in Amsterdam. You know, you have people from Suriname, people from different parts of South America, Curacao, Aruba, and different places that, you know, they migrated to Amsterdam because their areas were colonized by the Dutch at one time.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a few moments left in your interview. I just am curious about your musical aspirations and what you may have going in terms of your music.
Right now, I really just make music because it's something that I've always loved, something that I like to do. I'm not really doing it for the money. It's not really a business, but a lot of times I am able to, like I say, collaborate with different artists. I dropped 2 music videos this year. And one is called The Blacker the Berry, The Sweeter the Juice. That's the first one. And then the second one is called Do Revolutionaries Go to Heaven? So when I write my music, I try to incorporate a lot of black history, black empowerment, you know, something positive. So it's kind of different from hip-hop that you would probably hear on the radio.
It's more consciously oriented.
Yes.
Okay. And if someone wanted to view your videos, how would they go about it?
Okay, I have a YouTube channel. My YouTube channel, my Facebook, my Instagram, my TikTok, they're all under the same name, Camp Cleveland, CampCleveland.
Okay, so you got the music, you've got the book, the Afro Set, which you can obtain by going to the afroset.net. Anything else you want to share with us?
No, that's it. I just want to say thank you again. I really appreciate you, allowing me on your platform. I know it was last minute, but I'm definitely grateful.
Yes. Well, I know you're about to leave the country, and you want to tell us where you're headed?
Oh, okay. I'm headed back to the motherland. I'm going right back. I'm going to Egypt for a little while, then I'm going to try to bounce around. I'm, see how things play out, hopefully. Because a couple of African countries, they have opened back up because it wasn't as many cases of COVID-19 in Africa, so.
Okay, and are you planning to take groups over to Africa again in 2021?
Yeah, definitely. The group tours, they're open to any and everybody. I'm thinking middle school students, high school students, college students, young adults, elders. And everybody has had a great experience. If anybody have any questions about the motherland, they need more information, I'm always available.
Okay. And you put together plans that allow them to make incremental payments before paying off the cost of the trip?
Yes, definitely. The tour dates and the payment plans are flexible. So, if you want to schedule your tour for 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, or if you want to go next month, you can set your own date and you can pay at your own pace,
Okay. Taye Uhuru, my guest on Open Door, I thank you for joining us, and I hope that folks will take you up on their offer to spread their wings and fly across the Atlantic Ocean and get a glimpse of the motherland and become inspired as you have to travel, and travel. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you, King.
All right. We'll be back with new trap music by Azaryahu Yis'Rael and Rey Huzza right here on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Belcar community radio station.
This program is brought to you by Empower Clee, bridging the digital divide, providing reliable internet access to the greater Cleveland community.
Hey girl, what you doing?
Just trying to figure out what's going to happen with these kids in school.
What do you mean?
I don't got no internet at home for them or for work. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Girl, go to Empower Clee.
And what is that?
Empower Clee. They're right here in Cleveland. They offer high-speed internet.
Girl, are you serious? Because I need it right now.
Yes, and it gets better. My cousin just called them. She doesn't even have to pay a dime.
How can I reach them?
You can visit their website at www.empowercle.org or give them a call at 216-777-3859.
What's the number again?
216-777-3859.
Thanks, I'm going to call them right now.
Remember, call 216-777-3859. That's 216-777-3859. And ask about free internet service for your high school student. On behalf of WOVU 95.9 FM, a Burton Belcar community radio station, we extend a special thanks to Empower Clee for their support.
Open Door Cleveland looks at the lives of people here and abroad, navigating the realms of art, culture, and society. I'm Vince Robinson. Tune in for inspired conversation with an array of guests and subject matter experts right here on 95.9 FM WOVU, Monday mornings at 11. Stream us live at WOVU.org or enjoy us live by purchasing the WOVU app from your favorite app store. Open Door Cleveland, Monday mornings at 11 on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Belcar community radio station.
I got gon' solve them. I don't know why they hating. Do they got a problem? Praise God anyway. Hey. Praise God anyway. Switch that fake. Ooh, new life feel like tape. Haters gon' hate they shade. Shit, we gon' take off like space. Shit, you don't like me, can't hate you. Still calling God not to let loose. Paul said, dog, be peace. Show come through, can't chase you. Swish, swish, swish. Ooh, yeah, got my wish. Oh, got my wifey with me, yeah, that's a sis. Oh, got my bros with me too, so this beat true. I see I'm free, we bout to eat, and you ain't got a clue. How enlighten you? That's what real ones do. Back and back, they tryna clap, they throwing fades and shoot. I need bulletproof. I do. Righteousness to do. Okay. Got my Christ beside me, so I feel brand new. Yeah. Substitute some old rules, cause they wasn't whole food. And you know I'm chose to. Supercharged like Goku. I'ma walk in my shoes, ain't no choice, I got to. I'ma thank the Most High, only way we make do. Substitute some old rules, cause they wasn't whole food. And you know I'm chose to. Supercharged like Goku. I'ma walk in my shoes, ain't no choice, I got to. I'ma thank the Most High, only way we make food.
I make you see art like we're pushing grocery store. Anyone who going through depression, don't over on your low. Hey, just go within, you gon' see how it go. Hey, why do some them hate? That's one thing I don't know. But we do not stress this up joy right in the moments. Okay. That way your thought is Whole Foods, cause it's holy. Okay, that's bro code and sis code. The whole family on it. And a smile in my thoughts this whole day had me glowing. When situation arrived, I slammed the door, not invited. Fam, we that consciousness, not a level. Praise y'all anyway, it's how I made it up the struggle. Let's come together, inherit this earth, my sister and brother, let's go.
Fresh, Rey Huzza, man. Straight fresh, all praises. Much respect. But y'all don't want nothing spoiled, nothing bad, nothing rotten. All praises, straight fresh. Whole food, only run with whole food. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson, and you just heard a cut called Whole Foods with Azaryahu Yis'Rael and Rey Huzza. And I am blessed to have with me Brother Rey Huzza, who was half of this duo that brought us this beautiful song. Welcome to Open Door.
Hey, what's going on? Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And I'm really glad to hear music that has some substance. You know, I'm one of them old school cats, and it's taken me a while to embrace this whole notion of trap music. But, you know, once upon a time, I was a young person, and back when I was young and it was rap music, you know, the older generation wasn't getting that. So us old folk, we got to get used to the new. And I guess the beauty of this song is that you're using today's music to convey a very special message. So tell us, first of all, about your partner, because I didn't want to exclude him from this, but time did not permit us to reach him. Tell us about the inspiration of this song, and tell me about your partner.
Yes, Azaryahu, he actually came up with the chorus of Whole Foods and sent it to me. He said he thought I would be perfect for that song. So, yeah, he's just a brother. Me and him doing we got some good things in the community of Cleveland in the works. So, you know, this music is just a whole nother way of spreading that good energy. So, Whole Foods, you know, he all about being whole, and you know what I'm saying, with his righteous will and doing his best spiritually and everything. So I just jumped on the track like, yeah, I'm all with that.
Okay.
Whole Foods. And
tell us about your contribution to the lyric. Exactly what are you saying with what you express in the song?
So let's see. So I come in and basically give metaphoric, you know, words toward Whole Foods, you know, what I feel like Whole Foods means to me. And, you know, to me, it's having a clean way of thought and not letting any, you know, high fructose corn syrup type of thought creep in. You know, keeping the Whole Foods all the way organic in my mind state. So that's basically what I'm conveying in my verse, on the second verse. Okay.
And your partner, speak to what he's talking about with his.
So with his first verse, he's you know, praise Yah, you know what I'm saying, praise Yahweh, you know, just uplifting, and he's speaking on just purity, staying pure, you know what I'm saying.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at the visual. You have a YouTube video, and it's pretty much a static shot, but the way that you create movement is you rotate your name. So when he's doing his thing, his name is moving around on the screen, and when you come in, it populates with your name, and there's the movement there. There is some imagery on the screen. There are some Hebrew characters, and I'm kind of betting that you may not be completely familiar with the meaning of those, but I would ask you if you do.
Nope, I gotta ask my brother Azaryahu, because he made the actual background of it. I added in the certain movements inside of the on that picture and in the names that pop up and move up and down. But yeah, as far as the Hebrew words on it, you know, he's deeper into the study of the language of light of the Hebrew language than I am at the moment. I only know a little bit of it.
Okay, I can respect that. Definitely. Talk about the importance of doing what you do and doing what he does in the midst of all the music that we listen to. I mean, I'm just reflecting on songs like the one that Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion came out with last year that created quite a controversy, got quite a bit of exposure, and just basically blew both of them up worldwide. But I want you to contrast, what they're doing with what you're doing as recording artists.
All right. So, I mean, I grew up listening to No Limit, and because that is what was going on in my life, in my neighborhood, in my surroundings. So I kind of resonated with that, Tupac, some of what G-Unit was having out, and yeah, definitely Tupac. But so the youth, what they're hearing with trap music and everything, some of them in the city are really resonated with that because they in neighborhoods like the 30th and whatnot. I talked to youth over there, and they love trap music and stuff because that's what they're going through. So in my music, whenever I put anything out, I always talk about my life, and that has to do with struggle, that has to do with overcoming, and I put it in a creative way with metaphors and things that I know that people would like. So it's still touching on certain parts of life aspects where it's relatable to the people, because I come from where they come from, but it's like you can make it out. Like Pac was trying to tell you, let's be on something better, and the song changes. So that's where I come from and how I kind of relate to the youth who listen to trap music and that, the bad side of the reality that they see, and I want to show them the great side. Mm-hmm. That's also a reality. You know what I'm saying? I want to give them that.
From your perspective as a young person, why do you feel that so many of our young are gravitating towards the negative and rather than the positive?
Because the leadership, really, and that's where I have to take responsibility and know that the better I unify with people in the community, the better change that the youth can see, and it'll resonate more. Now, a certain shift is happening with the youth. It's an artist by the name of NLE Chopper, who is one of the few who's making more conscious music, for the young people, for the young wild people, for real. But yeah, I think that's real important to put a little bit of consciousness inside of it.
Okay. How much of an impact or how much involvement do you think that the recording industry has in this? And the reason that I ask this question is when I look at the evolution of hip hop, one of the early songs that really resonated across the country was something that Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five did called The Message. And then you had a number of groups, X-Clan, Poor Righteous Teachers, of course, KRS-One, and other artists who they were all about the message. Even Queen Latifah came out. When she came out, she was giving you that conscious vibe. And then all of a sudden, there was a paradigm shift and people walked away from creating music that had a conscious message. And then you had the whole West Coast phenomenon with NWA and MC8 and other artists that, it was really gangster rap. It was really about violence. It was really about drugs. So we saw that paradigm shift. And it seems as though then that there was a conscious effort by the recording industry to steer folks into that and away from conscious music. So, here we are 20, 30 years later, and we're seeing somewhat of a resurgence of conscious music because of folks like you and other young people across the country who might be doing these things in their respective communities. But, how would you respond to that?
Okay, so I'll start with the industry. That's where the money is. That's where the backing is. And even the Cardi B people, when they spoke about that song that she put out last year, Cardi B's response was that people are streaming those type of songs more. So that's where the money is. So she like, if y'all like conscious stuff, give it some plays, and maybe more people make would make more conscious music and stuff. So that was her response, and that really stuck out to me. You know what I'm saying? The higher vibrational music needs more plays, and I think that's where it's on the cusp of getting to. But the second part of that is the quote unquote bad side of it. I feel like they're more organized because, badness sells. So whatever, all that stuff sells, and it's easy to catch on to people who aren't necessarily conscious to, or rare to certain things. But I'm here to break down division upon like the good side. I see among like the woke community, there's certain divisivenesses and things of that nature. So I'm here to I'm always the one saying forget all of that. You know what I'm saying? We're not about to talk down on nobody else's belief. I need the rosters right here next to the brothers, who the Jews, next to the Islams, next to the Christians. I need us all on deck. I need us all in. Whoever, whoever wants to do positive action, we all got to be all in, because the more that we're divided as good individuals in general, how we going to make a substantial shift and change. So I feel like it's kind of a battle going on where it's like we need to be all in, like the Cavs said in 2016.
Okay. Well, speaking of all in, we're going to talk about the value of going in when we come back. You're listening to Open Door Cleveland with Vince Robinson. My guest now is Rey Huzza. He is part of a team of musicians. The other partner is Azaryahu Yis'Rael, and they created a song that you heard right here on Open Door Cleveland called Whole Foods. We'll be back with more Open Door right here on 95 FM WOVU. Be back in a minute.
WOVU 95.9 FM. Find us on Facebook. Like our page. Leave us a comment. We are WOVU 95.9, streaming live on WOVU.org.
This program is brought to you by Computer Love. Are you ready to get your digital life together? Well, PCs for People is where you need to be. A 501c3 nonprofit organization located at 3126 St. Clair Avenue, PCs for People has desktop computers, laptop computers, and free classes to get you in the mood for some computer love. Call 216-930-5741 or visit PCsForPeople.org. That's 216-930-5741 or visit PCSFORPEOPLE.org. On behalf of WOVU 95.9, Our Voices United, a Burton Belcar community radio station, we extend a special thanks to PCs for People for their support.
Hi, this is Glenda Dames Fincher from Kincaid's Kindred Spirits Sickle Cell Support, and youth mentoring group. Here's a quick word about the importance of blood donation in the African American community. African American patients with sickle cell disease are less likely to have physical reactions to blood donated by other African Americans. African American donors are almost 3 times more likely to match the blood needed for sickle cell patients than our non-African American donors. It's extremely important to increase the number of available blood donors from all ethnic groups. To schedule your life-saving donation today, go to redcrossblood.org or call 800-RED-CROSS. Thank you, WOVU 95.9 FM, for helping support sickle cell awareness.
We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, Rey Huzza, part of the team of Azaryahu Yis'Rael and Rey Huzza, and their tune is called Whole Foods. We just talked about that, and we've also talked about the lack of conscious music in the general community when you talk about popular music. And you know, it was fascinating when we were talking about the trap music and you were saying that that's what folks were gravitating to. So before we go into a discussion about the benefit of going in, for us old folks who may not get it, tell us what trap music is.
It's basically a certain genre that's, for the most part, not too conscious. They talk about the all of the, you would say, the downside of certain hoods around the cities, you know, and kind of in a way, I don't want to say glorified, but kind of, you know, just they just speak on that and vibe off of that, you know, club music and all of that type of stuff. Club talking about the drugs and the pills and all of that type of things, but.
Mm-hmm. But there's also a distinct musicality about it, or from my perspective, it's a lack of musicality because there's a certain beat that goes along with trap music. When you hear it, you know exactly what that is. And as I listen to your song, I see that you have utilized that specific beat, and you've also utilized the cadences that go along with trap music, but there's the conscious message that pervades the music that you are creating. So that's kind of what I wanted to get to. And, you know, back in the day, once again, when we were talking about hip hop music, there was heavy sampling. So, you know, Clyde Stubblefield, who was one of James Brown's drummers, he created some beats, and you would hear those beats in so many different songs, same beat, just a different lyric that accompanied it. When I listen to trap music, it seems as though all of the beats sound the same. You know, I don't really hear a whole lot of creativity, but I don't listen to it a lot either. So maybe it's out of bounds for me to comment on that. But there's just a certain aspect of a lack of musicality. Back in the day, bruh, we listened to groups like the Stylistics and the Spinners and, you know, and Marvin Gaye, and, you know, they had instrumentation, bass, drums, keys, horns. I mean, you look at groups like Earth, Wind and Fire and the Commodores, and they just had all this instrumentation, but all of that seems to be missing. Do you have any thoughts about the differences in the musicality?
I mean, once it took over, it's like that was all people had to listen to in certain neighborhoods, you know. So it's like that's where they surrounded at. And I kind of, my teenage years was that as well. That's why it's easy for me to flow on a trap beat, because that's where I started from. And but with the positive message, you know, that's the strategy behind it. With that same, because it's a certain energy that when I hear a trap beat, I'm like, oh, I could flow on this. Like it has a certain bounce to it. Now, like you said, it is kind of one or two dimensional compared to how it used to be and how, you know, it should be brought back to, quite frankly. But, you know, but the trap music beats does have a certain bounce to it that's kind of catchy. So I just ride the beat with that. And, you know, people from the hoods, they listen to my music and they say, oh man, it sounded good, and you ain't even cussing out one time. It's crazy, you know. So they point that out, and they still like the song and the energy behind it. So
okay,
it's a strategy.
So, Brother Ray, I know you as part of another musical group called Heart of the Nation, also known as Hot Nation, and I know that you are tuned in to some very deep spiritual things, amongst them meditation. So with that, I think you're probably quite aware of the importance of vibration. And when I listen to that music, you know, I know that it has kind of a hypnotic effect. You know, when we think about entertainment, we think about it as being kind of a passive activity. But entertainment is also, you know, taking advantage of one's brain. I mean, if you do the etymology of the word, you know, it really has a lot to do with having an impact on someone's thought processes on a subliminal level that they might not be aware of. You know, they record music in different frequencies, and they've changed those frequencies in order to be able to have a certain level of control. So could you talk about the importance of vibration as it relates to us as beings on this earth, and what we can do to enhance the vibrational level at which we exist?
What I know about the vibration, yes, brother, the 528 hertz frequency, that's something that me and my group, us together, we are looking into the 528 hertz HZ, which is the love frequency. So those sub 2 frequencies that's all around us right now, I think it's 432 that's in the atmosphere that the earth naturally emits. But, you know, those tools pick up on that, you know, and we're able to put them on tracks that give positive tuning, positive frequencies, you know, and the Rastafari in the Caribbean, that was something that when I started being more aware in my mid-20s, my early to mid-20s, it was the reggae music. I needed something with substance, and that frequency that they had, that was it for me, because the rap music, it was kind of, I can't just keep listening to drugs and all that type of stuff. I'm like, no, we got to be better. We got to be greater, actually. So that the frequency, I'm really in the midst of combining with a few rosters in the city and farther to work with them, because it's certain messages in a certain frequency and level and hip and hop to them that I feel like the youth and the city and the people need to kind of get some of that energy.
Mm-hmm. You know,
that's what helped me out.
Okay. I just wanted to commend you, because I really appreciate what you said about working with everyone, you know, because we have differences in the way we see things, but, you know, there are so many similarities, and often the differences are the things that are used to separate us, which prevent us from working towards a common goal. And if that common goal is the liberation of minds and raising the vibrational level or raising the consciousness of people, you have to find some kind of commonalities in order for that to happen. So I really appreciate what you said about that. Before we took the break, I mentioned the whole idea of going in and meditation. And I know that meditation is a significant part of your mission as a being on earth. I've been involved in a few sessions that you have been involved with in terms of meditation. So let's take a few minutes to talk about the benefit of meditation as we come out of the winter solstice and a time in which your ability to meditate can have a completely profound impact on the rest of your year. Talk about what meditation is and why folks should consider doing it on a regular basis.
Yes. Thank you, Brother Vince. I studied meditation deeply for years and practice it as well, just to bring it back to the community. Doing it consistently grows our gray matter inside of our brain. That'll help with emotional stability, awareness, you know, like I said, emotional control. It helps with heart health, you know, certain cardiovascular issues that our city, that some people have in our communities, you know, so it's inner health as a whole. And, you know, the deep breathing in itself, it helps protect our chromosomes, from the effects of aging and all of that. So it's certain super benefits that we can get just by consistently doing deep breaths, and I love to count in the inhale seconds, seeing how many seconds you can inhale for, trying to reach a higher and higher number consistently throughout the day, and doing that, they say 8 weeks. So doing that for 2 months straight, consciously challenging ourselves, we're going to grow our gray matter, and that's what they call neuroplasticity. So it's a whole plethora of benefits that we can take part in going forward, with relieving stress and all of that, because we know stress breaks down our immune system, especially in these times with the COVID and all of that. When we get upset, we know we get a headache, or I notice if I get upset, I'm more susceptible to feel a little sick the next day. So especially it being the winter time and everything up here in Cleveland, we should definitely be building our immune system with the meditation. It definitely builds the immune system to a cellular level. So it's so many reasons that all over the board, from youth to elders, we should definitely be doing it.
So you mentioned something very interesting when you talk about how your breath can be used as a tool to improve your immune system, particularly in light of the fact that we're navigating a pandemic or a plandemic, depending on who you talk to about it. And it's interesting to me because I've never really heard specifically meditation as being one of those immune building tools. Although I will admit that I have advocated folks engage in yoga, and yoga is one of those practices that is directly connected with breath. So perhaps I'm contradicting myself, but talk about some of the easy ways that folks who don't have any experience in meditation, talk about some of the easy ways that they can start and get involved in something that can be completely beneficial to them.
Definitely. The counting your inhale breaths is basically just challenge ourselves. We have to know that it is boosting our immune system. It is growing our gray matter in our brains. It is increasing heart health, and it is anti-aging, and so much more. But once we know that, then we're more motivated to do it more, and it enhances our awareness and expands our awareness field. But once we know these things, then we're more motivated to do it, and it's the key is consistency. Even with acupuncture, they'll tell you got to do it consistently, be on this regimen consistently. Even with drinking sea moss, it got to be a little consistently for our body to get the full effect. So that's what I can say. Just really challenge ourselves. Know that the more consistent we can just sit down, whether it's 5 minutes. I got certified over there in Boston by a Harvard professor who's a meditation expert, and it popped out when he said even 5 to 10 minutes, a day, even if it's just that, as long as it's every day, and. Us as a people, we could challenge ourselves. We are used to overcoming challenges and things of that nature. If we can really challenge ourselves to, sit down and even do the long counting deep breaths on the inhales throughout our whole day as much as possible, it's all about challenging ourselves. And, I give meditation classes. I'm a certified meditation coach. So I give meditation classes to all ages, just because of the benefit that it could do for our community when I study deep on it and notice certain benefits for myself.
Okay. If someone is interested in taking one of your classes, how can they reach you?
I think my email is the best one. My type of meditation is called Release All Stress Meditations. So it's Ras Chi, and the Ras stands for Release All Stress, and Chi stands for Channeling Heavenly Energy, because it's going within. So Ras Chi Meditations at gmail.com.
Okay, Ras Chi Meditations at gmail.com. Best way to get you.
Yes, sir. And I'm giving free sessions out, to the people, and it's causing some good effect. I'm just trying to help build the immune system and give a few knowledge and motivation to the people.
All right. Well, with that, Ray, I'd like to thank you for joining me on Open Door with Vince Robinson. And I'd also like to thank my other guest, and that was Taye Uhuru. You brothers have brought us some great information and some things to look forward in 2021. This is a period of respiratory distress. So if you want to strengthen your lungs and strengthen your immune system at the same time, consider meditation. Thanks for joining us, brother.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Open Door Cleveland with Vince Robinson. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make it a great day, Cleveland.